Now, with all that time spent on the grid and its many properties, let me compare the grid to Flexbox. When should you use which? Let's first of all understand the key difference between the CSS grid and CSS Flexbox. The grid is all about two-dimensional positioning. You have rows and columns. That's what it's all about. That is what we used all the time. Flexbox is one-dimensional. In Flexbox, you don't have rows and columns. Sure, you can use flex wrap to wrap items if your viewport is too small, for example. But in the end, you always just have flex direction row or column, and you either position them horizontally or vertically. So Flexbox is always a decent choice if you just have a row or a column of items. You can use flex wrap to still ensure that your row of items wraps itself in case that your viewport is becoming too small. But then you still might have the issue that the positioning of the items to each other is a bit harder in Flexbox than with the grid. And the grid is especially a great choice if you have a real layout with multiple dimensions, or for example with the form in our course project, where you want to position items next to each other in a grid. We can actually see this really well in our project. The form here is a grid because the way we position elements here would be impossible with Flexbox basically. The entire layout could have been done with Flexbox, but it's also done neatly with the grid, and it ensures that the footer is at the bottom. The fact that we can scroll here, again, is a bug stemming from Firefox. On the main page, we use the grid too for the layout, but for example, for the plans, we use Flexbox because it's just a row of items, 3 items next to each other. And Flexbox is awesome for situations like this. The same is true for our key features. It's one-dimensional. They're next to each other or below each other, just as our plans. So no need to use the grid here. You can do that, it's not necessarily wrong, but Flexbox is made for situations like this. So I hope this helps you. One dimension, normally you should take Flexbox. Multiple dimensions, the grid is something you should think about.